We're live, folks. Episode 2 of Hardpoints. CDL launch weekend, Minnesota. The Rocker organization absolutely killed it. We got our first look at the CDL franchise teams, the broadcast. We're going to go over all the different points of, everything CDL, challengers, the actual matches themselves a little bit, and going to go from there. So I guess just to start off right away, what was everyone's thoughts of the show, the broadcast, the different graphics, the venue? One of you guys want to take it away with your initial thoughts of the broadcast?
Yeah, I actually will. I actually thought that the event as a whole was actually really, really awesome. I didn't really know what to expect because obviously having the CWL last year, like we talked about a little bit last episode, last episode, it was like I didn't really know how to expect like what we were going to walk into, like what the venues are going to be, like the standards of these homesteads, like what we're
Right.
actually going to walk into. So I thought it was awesome. I thought the armory and the venue was cool. I think the crowd and like just the atmosphere was really awesome. I thought everything was a really good turnout. I think it was really cool.
It's definitely a wow factor for being in the armory and everything. Like you walk in and you're like, ooh,
it was
like
fancy.
Yeah. Fancy's like a great.
As soon as I walked in, when I first walked in there, before like any of the lights, it was kind of getting set up. I said to my team, I was like, this is cool. Like that's what I honestly thought it was awesome.
Or Clint?
I can go. Yeah, no, I thought they did an amazing job. Are we talking like production, event, everything?
Everything. High level.
Yeah, I thought for Minnesota, they did a really good job considering you got to think this is, like Minnesota, first time in that market, not the biggest market in the entire world. They stepped up to the plate and did it first before anybody else. So that comes with its own hurdles, obviously. Yeah. I thought they did an excellent job with like the actual venue itself, like stuff they had for people to do in there. I know there was like the setup issue with the warm-up stations for people, but from my understanding, like they seemed to have the tables, and that was in the CDL. So I don't really know who was at fault kind of for that whole thing, right. But it looked awesome. My biggest negative with it, and I even talked to Midnight about this, the camera shot made it look way emptier than it was at times because the front section, to my understanding, was VIP, and the problem was
really good point.
The big cam, the jib was right behind that, kind of between the first and the second and the third column. So a lot of the shots, it would look like empty because VIP people were out in the VIP lounge getting drinks, doing all sorts of stuff. And it was driving me insane. Like there'd just be a shot. It looked like there was no one there, but there were a lot of people there. And I was getting so pissed. So that was one thing that bothered me a little bit. But I think that's a lesson for people to learn, kind of how you want to handle VIP tickets and whatnot. For the production side of stuff, I think for the most part, what fans saw looked really good. Like the graphics package and stuff was better than we've ever had. Some of the videos
looked clean,
absolute fire. The single biggest thing, I think, and we'll talk observing, that's a different beast, I think. We'll do that later, I guess. But the single biggest thing from a production standpoint, and Joe and I got to laugh about this, because when we had our first meeting in LA like a month before, and they told us that they had an hour and 15 minutes set aside for matches and all the stuff they wanted to do, Joe and I were like, that's insane. Like, there's no way you're going to be on schedule. Like, no, like we've run simulations and we've thought about it so much. I'm like, it's not going to happen that way.
They looked at the average time of matches the past 2 years. That's all it was, which makes sense. But
that was an MLG production team that had been running COD events for like a decade straight and had it down to a science. This was an entirely new team, first esports event. Like, I expected to be issues. So like the biggest thing I think from production standpoint, I just think some of the fat needs to be trimmed. There were just a lot of whether it was just too much time between matches, too long of a death segment between a match. Like there was times where it was like, if you're a viewer, you think when the camera comes to Joe and I, it's time for the match to start. They'd be like coming to us, then to Chris, then back to the desk, then to us again. I'd just be like, can we just go?
A lot of bloat for sure.
So that was the biggest thing. A lot of bloat. Yeah, I think the fat needs to be trimmed, but I thought it looked good, man. Like the stage and the camera shots, and a lot of it looked very, very good.
Yeah, it's just kind of hopping off of that point as well with the crowd and everything. I feel like for what I was able to hear, obviously I'm sitting at the desk, I have a different like audio quality of everyone else. I feel like the crowd mics need to be tweaked a little bit. It was definitely louder in the venue than I feel like was portrayed on the stream sometimes.
I had someone say that in my stream earlier.
Yeah, I saw people like, I don't know if it was a complaint or what on social media and Reddit and stuff, but it was definitely louder than I feel like the stream portrayed. So maybe a little bit of tweaks there. Your point about
one in the first row, right? Like,
yeah, right.
If they think there's a mic,
also that might be fixed.
VIP.
It might be fixed based on Clint's point, where it's like change how that VIP stuff works and making sure the camera shots are always looking good with the crowd. There was a good amount of people there, so I just want to like that needs to be portrayed better in my opinion. And then in terms of, I guess, just on the production side, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it was probably obvious to people watching that Friday was frantic. I don't want to necessarily call it a mess because it was okay, but like, yeah, the wait times in between games, like even us when we're working the event, it just felt long, and it's just like a lot of weird transitions, things like that. Again, the observing, which we'll go into. But like from my POV, after Friday, I had a big headache and I was like just very, very stressed. And then going into Saturday and Sunday was like a different experience for me, at least working the desk. So
what it seemed like, and I think this, I know we're doing observing later, but a similar kind of problem there too, is it was a new observing team working together for the first time, a new production team working together for the first time. And they did some simulations and some rehearsals and stuff like weeks before, but nothing compares to the live show. And there was just a lot of I think it was mostly communication from what I could tell. We're not in the truck, obviously. We're not in the production truck, but it just seemed like people needed to get on the same page, and it got better as the weekend went on. The good thing is all the CDL production staff, director, producers, all that stuff is the same. Like there'll be some contractors, obviously, that'll do certain things, but a lot of the key people, like all of the key people, are the same team going to all of these events. So that makes me feel it'll get better and better just based on what improved towards the end of the weekend. And I just don't know how it looked to viewers versus us. Like I felt like everything was so chaotic at times, and there were so many like little mistakes. But like I don't know that really comes off to the stream as much. So I think for the most part, it was really positive. They did a lot of stuff well.
Yeah, I think one of our producers was like, at the end of the day, like obviously we're all pretty stressed. He's like, just look at the show. He's like, it's beautiful. It looks good. The talent's on point. So first thing I'm going to start off with was the desk. That was probably, especially Friday, the hour and a half pregame show was probably one of the most, if not the most complex show we've ever had. So props to you, Teep, but
stressful.
Also props to Lottie.
She killed it.
Yeah, she did a good job,
absolutely killed it. It was such a complex show. As we talked about, new production, new everything. Really, it was a new world for her. So to really open up the show with potentially the most complex Call of Duty show we ever had, and it's her first gig. That was. I mean, it was fun to watch. I mean, you guys had great chemistry up there, and as well.
Felt good.
Yeah. No, I mean, when that thing, like when we finally got into the first match, like I'm sure that felt very good. But I mean, yeah, things started off slow.
Maybe felt good for him. Didn't feel good when I got into the first match.
That's true.
We'll get into that. But
yeah, we will.
True. I think when people heard about the league, one of the biggest things was content, and I loved every single piece. It was amazing.
All the pieces were amazing, yeah,
dude. Like when Minnesota came up and they had like the Minnesota one, like Clint and myself were looking at each other. Like, bro, we have chills, and I don't know if I've ever gotten that from like a Call of Duty piece. Like very unique. I props to Rocker. Not easy to be the first. I thought the venue was solid. I thought it looked great. I would like for us not to be up in a closet or a balcony, but that's not. I would like to be on the floor or closer to everything, but that'll be venue to venue. And then lastly, I think that's about it.
I think one more thing I wanted to bring up personally is the effect of the homestand itself. I tweeted about it a day or two ago, or yesterday, I think. But that roster in previous years is getting a few people saying, "Oh, let's go assault" or whatever, right? Like, I don't want to roast the players at all in that fact,
family
but
and friends.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that roster can come in and a city and a fan base can really like attach to them and show the love like that. That Sunday, that last match was a perfect example of what the magic of this can really be, the potential of it. I don't know, Chris, you might be able to expand on that a little bit, but like the crowd experience lashing onto to that team was a phenomenal sight.
Yeah, no, I saw your tweet about that. I actually talked about that in my stream earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Like those players are great players. They're successful players, but it's not. Yeah, it's just usually historically older events. You rooted for Optic, or you didn't really have a big crowd.
Exactly.
That's just what
Optic,
it was.
United was starting to get there.
Kind of, yeah, but not like, you know what I'm saying. It was just not the same thing. And I honestly thought going there, I thought it'd be the Huntsman and then blah. But honestly, I really thought it would be Minnesota. And then when I saw Minnesota, especially because one of my good friends, like Asim, he's on that team, and having like that crazy crowd behind them, they were booing Toronto. You know, like they had Gary V hyping them. Everything about it was so awesome to see, and just like being in that atmosphere is crazy. Like, I can't wait for my Atlanta event. I cannot wait for the London event. That made me so hyped for that event for that reason. So like, I'm so excited that it turned out like that. I think it gives the potential and the ceiling for so many other places. I think New York's going to be crazy now. Like, I think they're going to have a lot of people. Like, I'm just so excited for this year. It really kicked it off right. It just started on the right foot. So everyone in Minnesota that backed your team, good job. That was awesome. I loved every second of it. And like I said, I love the event as a whole. The only thing I didn't really touch on that I would have talked about that could be improved, I don't really know whose fault it was or what happened, was what Maven kind of said. Like, the player setup's not really working in the warm-ups. Like, I know that could have been the update thing because there was an update that happened right before that
doesn't
obviously
help.
it doesn't help anyone.
It seemed like the network went down or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm sure that could have been on the technical side, and I can obviously like kind of be wrong about this. But as a player and now as a coach, like, every single team should always have a chance to warm up and be able to play. Like, even if you don't have a match on this day or a match on that day, like, you should have your own station. You know, like, you're a professional player, you're a professional team. You should never be, hey, we have a match in an hour, we need to warm up. Could we sit down? And obviously, rationally speaking, that's true. Like, obviously, it should be prioritized if that's the case. But my point being is, moving forward, every team, no matter what, like, that should be really, really high on the priority list to make sure that works. But I don't know that update could have sent things out of a downward spiral. So other than that, it was awesome. Everyone in Minnesota did a great job.
I don't think you're asking for too much for your team to be able to warm up appropriately. Like, that needs to be a standard that needs to be set now. And
and if you're going to fly us out Tuesday, if we're going to be there Tuesday and take a 4-day break before we play our match, like, the players are going to want to warm up. And when I was a player, when you guys were players, like, you're going to want to warm up, you know? So that would be my only thing, but I don't really know who that really lands on.
Yeah.
And that's not my biggest complaint. Like, you still made it work, but yeah, that would be it. But I loved it. It was awesome.
For sure. And I guess we can kind of spiral off from that point and move into to challengers a little bit, since we're talking about like venue and the broadcast and structure and all that type of stuff. I know you guys might have some choice words about I don't know if we call it controversy, but people tweeting about the challengers space. That was unwarranted, to say the least. You guys can talk more about that.
I'll start again, just real quick. I
wants to go so bad.
Actually, no, Maven, you go first. You go first, Maven. Do it.
This is why I was pissed.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Hit me with it.
What other esport or franchise esport has 200 team open bracket tournaments?
I'll answer that one for you, Clint. It's zero. It's
zero. And the reason why is because they're a pain in the ass. They're expensive as hell, and it's a goddamn nightmare to do. I don't think people realize how close it was to that not even existing. The only reason that I think that existed was because it's existed for so long. They didn't want to upset a lot of fans. They wanted to keep that in the ecosystem. And I wasn't part of that decision at all, but I was actually surprised to see that end. So when I saw people freaking out about having a $250,000 tournament in that garage or basement, whatever you want to call it, oh my God, you idiots. I was so mad because, like, I just don't think a lot of them realize how, like, I guess, like, lucky they are to have what they have.
Well, and to be careful when you're posting stuff like that. It's your own thing.
It wasn't bad at all. Like,
not at all.
It wasn't even bad. Like, I went down there after the first time I saw it, I was like, that's probably going to be a video, because they were working on it still. It was like a day before. I was like, that's going to be a video, because they were still setting up, and it was, but it just got blown so out of proportion, man. Like,
it's blown out of proportion because of social media. That happens a lot, but it's like,
that's everything.
Do you want to put your own thing that you're participating in a negative light like that? To me, it makes no sense. And whoever is out there that needs to hear this, just be a little bit more careful, man. It's frustrating.
I don't think people realize how annoying and difficult those things are, man.
Yeah.
And from
I could tell them they're not fun. I set up PlayStations. I did updates. I set up
you did
tables.
it all.
I plugged them in. I unplugged them. It's not fun. I would love to just set up 8 stations and not 50. Like, I'm sure everybody would. I mean, go ahead, Chris. I'll go in later, but yeah.
No, I mean, my thing is like, I understand that, they maybe, yes, they weren't like almost a thing, and that's kind of Call of Duty's tradition. And to back that, like, Call of Duty, that's like what they're known for, those big events. And like, it would be a tragedy to take them away. So I see like the both sides of it, but playing an amateur event for $250,000. I'm pretty sure the first place winner, I could be wrong with this, takes away $16,000 each. I think I could be wrong. I don't know.
Probably in that
Regardless,
ballpark,
Something
I'm
like
sure.
that. It was like
is more
80K
money.
for first. Or
That is
whatever
more money than I competed for until like 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's
and
wild.
I was playing formal Scump, Karma, you know what I'm saying, and Crim 6 for $2,000 in a ballroom of a hotel in a much worse situation, in a much more cramped situation. And like, it sucked, but at the same time, like, that's just what it was. And I feel like at first I didn't see the venue. And when I first heard it, I'm not going to lie, I was like, a parking garage, like, that kind of, you put it in negative limelight, and I'm like, that kind of sounds crappy. I went down there. The only difference of that or a convention center with like,
which is a
like,
giant hall garage.
is literally is the ceiling height though. That's all it was. Is the ceiling height. So it's like, I get it, but it wasn't really that bad. And I understand that obviously you like, just because you're not pros or something, then you don't, like, you still deserve to be like treated obviously with respect. But that was not bad. It was blown out of proportion. And then there were so many people that like, you have articles like Barstool Sports talking about it, and like, it just looks bad on your craft, where like, you get to travel the world and go to these cities and do your thing for a lot of money still. And I don't know. I feel like those situations could be good. And not every single player did complain. So I'm not saying every single amateur. Right. I'm not generalizing this, because there are a lot of amateurs that were fine with it. But I also think that mindset going into something, if your first thing is when you step into a venue, when you're competing for $250,000 is, this place sucks, the parking garage, this and that, like that's your first line of thought. You're one, like Scump said it in one of his interviews, you're 1 foot out the door to being a loser.
Yep.
You're not even there to win anymore. You're already complaining and making excuses and this and that and this about why this place sucks. It's like, show up. Who cares if you're playing in a garage? It doesn't matter, outside, it doesn't matter. And just focus on winning. That's what you're there for. And if you win, you get more chances to become a pro of, I hope that's the reason why you're there.
Right.
So it's like, I just don't understand that mindset of why you would do that. And I think there's a lot of amateur players that have been pros out there that would agree with what I'm saying and still think people are ridiculous. But then there's people that have been around for a long time that just like to bitch and moan about it. And it's just super annoying. I don't know. I hate that mindset. There's a fine line. Yes, there's obviously the other side of the argument where it could be worse, but that wasn't that bad. I've played it much worse. And I know I sound like the old guy, like, oh, you should be like, see what I did in my heyday. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's true though. Like, it's been worse. I've seen worse, and for less money. Like, I don't know. I don't think that situation was that bad. I talked to a bunch of amateur players as well that I'm friends with. They liked it. I just think it made it look a lot worse. And some people on social media will see that. Yeah. You see that, and like, a fan will be like, oh wow, that's absolutely terrible. And now they won't even go take the time to research what it actually is. And now you have people hating on the amateur bracket.
They're looking for more things wrong that aren't there.
Yeah.
Can I add real quick one thing on top of this, just a thought that applies to this and a lot of other things, but it was like the reaction to this, and I want to get it out before I forget. The number of times that I saw someone say in response to this, $300 million league, by the way, I don't think this should have to be said. But for those of you that maybe don't understand, they didn't get $300 million, and they're spending $300 million on the production this year. But there are people that think that, like, there's just $300 million they're putting into this year. This is something they expect to be like, they want to be the next NBA, NFL, like the longevity, decades of this. Like, they're not just dumping $300 million into this. But anyway, I just saw like comments like that so many times. I'm like, it's not how it works. Like,
and it is perceived as the wrong way. And then that's why that endless complaining and stuff makes no sense. Like, if you're an amateur player too, you want to help this esport grow for the reason that you're hoping to be a pro. And then when you're a pro, it's growing, which means you make more money and it's flourishing for you. So I just don't understand the negative mindset around things. It just doesn't, I don't know. It's just silly to me.
The final thing I want to say on this before we move on is be careful with what you're saying. And I'm all for holding people accountable for things that need to be held accountable for. That's fine. Absolutely. I'm not saying you shouldn't speak your mind if something negative is happening. But if you do take that thought and you want to put out something out there that's negative, be careful with it. Because when I see pros, amateurs, diehard Call of Duty fans that are doing stuff like that, you're hurting all of us. It's stupid if you're doing it about things that is going to affect the entire community and put out a negative perception about all of us. Be careful. Don't be stupid. Let's move on. Next point I want to talk about is
Oh man!
Oh, you had another
Shoot.
point?
I didn't get to say anything.
Oh, go, Joe.
All I was gonna say is name another game that does this.
Yeah.
League of Legends, all online. They do some LCS Academy, like they do like a Monday night thing where they get to play in the studio now. Cool. Overwatch Challengers, online. Halo. Well, no, they would love to have the events that we have now. That's not a thing. Gears, they're trying, but even now their online league is online. Like every other amateur esport is online because for tournament operators, for the games, it is cheap and it is easy. CSGO, everything is online qualifiers. Everything, unless you are like a top 24 team in the world, which good luck. There is nobody that does this like we do this. People try to imitate it, they try to do it, and they can't. And that is obviously giving a lot of love to MLG of the past and esports engine nowadays and people that are trying to do it, but they can't. So yeah, just enjoy what you have. Like honestly, $250,000 is insanity. Like it really is. And look what these events have done. Like even last year, a tournament like Champs, you have guys who placed like top 24, like Kleenex and some of these other amateur players who are now on these franchising teams. Like, so for the guys like Singularity, congrats for winning, by the way. You know, Clinton, myself, we got to watch the first best of 5. Obviously, a lot of people unhappy in the community not watching the second best of 5. We agree.
I agree with
that needs to be handled better. The problem is just a scheduling thing. On top of that, too, though, Joe, like, I think I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know we have a lot of other stuff to do, but like, I know people want it broadcast and like maybe there will be some that are, but that's another thing that like, this isn't like knocking one exactly, but people don't understand how much that costs to produce. And they're not going to just have a Logitech webcam and one person there. Like this is Activision. It would be hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce that. And the problem is we have years and years and years and years of data that show 500 to 2,000 people watch that.
Dude,
and
we have that for Charlie and Delta Pro streams. Yeah, there might not be commentators, but it's still world-class gameplay.
It's just wild. Like, everyone like freaks out like, oh, I want to watch it. The numbers have never been there. And I'm not saying I wouldn't like that it be shown because I do think it's good, but it's just they need to figure out a way to do it that's kind of cost efficient because it's
because I love to watch that personally.
How many people watch it? I know you do, but like
yeah exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Watch it, man.
Yeah, I agree.
And back to that point, I think Singularity, congrats to them again. Win a lot of money. Those guys now are on franchise or like radars. Like there's people now at franchises to watch those.
Yeah,
like,
someone said I saw someone tweet like
figure out who's next.
If it's not broadcasted, how are people going to find these teams? I'm like, there are people with there's people that are doing their job. If they're doing their job to find the next up and coming player, they don't need it from the stream. Like they should be scouting these guys. Like it's not whether you have that or not, you should be able to scout these guys.
And that all goes to my mindset thing. Like if you win these and you do well in these, instead of complaining, like you should have a head down grind mentality. I want to do the best because if we do expand and you've won 3 amateur brackets this year, you're on the radar to getting picked up and being on a franchise and changing your life. So it's like, that's why that stupid mindset just makes no sense to me. And that's why I was getting so frustrated watching it because I want people to thrive and flourish in their careers. And it's just like, I just watch like sometimes them be their own worst enemies and it just sucks. So yeah, but we can move on.
For sure. Sounds good. Yeah.
Enjoy land.
Yeah. Enjoy it. I think finding the priority of which matches you would actually feature to make that cost efficient enough and everything. It's a lot of tough decisions. It's a lot of potentially expensive decisions to make.
It's not our job to figure out. It's high up. It's above our pay grade. But people just think it's so easy. Like, oh, just add a day to the broadcast. Just add this. It's just not. It's never that simple.
For sure. All right. First off, I guess we'll go into the game itself, the watchability of the game, the gameplay. We can go into more like map and mode specific things, which I'm sure Crowder will have a lot of good input in.
Can I start off with the
observing thing? In-game skins. We're gonna dive into the more gameplay match aspect of everything. So Clint, go for it, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get into this as quickly as I can, and I don't care who I piss off because this pissed me off so goddamn much. So there are obviously a lot of people involved with the league that have a sports background or might be new to esports. So I heard a couple days before the event, right when Joe and I landed, that they were planning to do a large percentage, I won't get into exact numbers, but a large percentage of the broadcast from third person and Skycam. Joe and I heard on Tuesday. I think Joe and I went and tried to talk or complain to probably about 15 different people about how this would be murdered if they broadcast that way and people would lose their goddamn minds. We lost that battle, but I told them if they did it once, it would not happen again because the community would lose their minds. Fast forward to the first match. Chicago versus Dallas. That was the most difficult thing I have ever commentated.
I blacked out
in my career. Oh, Joe and I literally did not even look at the gameplay.
Cast off the mini map.
I was just looking at the mini map.
That must have been so hard, man.
Dude, Joe at one point looks at me. I think it was after map 1. He goes, I think we did pretty good. And I just didn't say a word. He goes, oh, you're mad, aren't you? I was like, I've never been more angry than I was after that first cast. It was so difficult. Now, what we said happened. The community freaked out, and things improved very quickly. And we can dive more into it, but like that was. Whew, I wish it would have changed beforehand, but thankfully it was just one match. I just wish it wouldn't have been one of the
match.
One of the more hype matches.
A hell of a one to test that one out on.
Yeah, and I get
someone counted, didn't they, Clint? Someone counted.
Apparently, we saw 9% of the kills from a first-person perspective. It was 9 of 91 kills we saw from a first-person. The map that Joe and I casted, map 1.
Ooh, it's really bad when you put it in numbers.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy watching that match either.
No one did.
I didn't really know what was going on.
I mean, I felt horrible because, like, so first of all, like, typically with Clint and myself, when we got into a rhythm with Paradox, we would hardly ever have to say that. But I very much, if I see someone who's about to have a big one-on-one or, is really making an impactful play, I call it out. I go, hey, you know what? Let's jump to Sim's point of view. He's about to make the play. This could decide the rotation, whatever it may be. Like that's what I try to call as much as possible. And I noticed like the first few minutes while I was doing that, I said that once or twice. It didn't go. So I was like, I'm just going to cast off the minimap, but I found myself at a number of times looking at the minimap, saying something, and I looked up. We weren't there, and I was like, they'll figure it out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, it was a tough first match.
Don't give the observers hate because, well, I know there's a lot of stuff, and we'll talk more about that they need to work on even once it improved, but that sure as hell wasn't what they wanted to do or what they planned to do for the first series. So don't put that on the observers. That was coming from well above their pay grade.
Yeah, got better though. I think the last match Sunday, Minnesota Toronto was where I like to be. It was smooth. Observing was on point.
I think transitions need to get smoother, and they need to react to things a little bit quicker. Maybe when we call for them, like there's still awkward uses of Skycam, like the static cam, but that's more. Remember, we're going from only Paradox doing it by himself to now like
5 people,
truck with like 5 people, like controlling different stuff. And
there's a director.
It's just they're gonna get better. Just like the production team had to find a flow, like they're gonna find a flow as well. But yeah,
I think once we get to like a more fine-tuned spot, it's going to be better than it was before because there's an actual team dedicated behind it. However, rough sort of first go as the weekend went on.
On a positive standpoint, though, Teep, I mean, it looked good as hell. I mean, with the in-game skins and the actual codcaster with the game, like
cool.
It's the best. It's the best it's ever looked, I think, ever. Can it be improved? Yes, just like everything else, but it looked goddamn good.
The in-game stuff, love it.
Yeah, people just need to know that that is like a codcaster like skin. That is the players don't have white jerseys versus black jerseys. That is just something that the COD Observer team has.
Overwatch.
It's basically like an overlay. Yeah, it's basically like an overlay. So people were like, it's unfair that Chicago has white and Atlanta has black. Like, don't worry about that. It's just an overlay to make it look really good, which it does.
Yeah, cool. Good point. I guess now we can transition into the actual gameplay itself. Like once we got sort of to a better spot with the observing and everything, how did we feel as a whole? Did the game Hardpoint, S&D, Dom? What are our thoughts?
Shoot. One more topic real quick, which we only spent a lot of time on, but
go ahead.
I got a lot of mentions and people were going. They're working. I think we're going to find a way to do stats better. I think. Just to give you guys, when we were in Columbus, we had this big meeting with like the team working on Codcaster, the developer, all of like MLG, and basically they took the entire HUD from Black Ops 4. And there were a lot of people that wanted to make it more simplistic. Like you would have a sports broadcast where you just have like a widget and the rest is watching the game, like take eyes off all these places in the screen. So They went with every single HUD element and said, what do you absolutely have to have at all times? And like they were wanting to remove the mini map. We're like, no, that's got to stay. And this has got to stay. And we're going through all these elements. And one that was kind of 50-50 was just with stats. Like if it has to be there at all times. Because if you watch, I know it's not the same thing, but if you're watching a hockey game, a basketball game, a football game, like you don't know exactly what someone is from the field at all times. You don't know how many assists somebody has at all times. Like the broadcast does a really good job of showing lower thirds, popping up stats at times. The commentators have to highlight stuff. So we were trying to find a healthy mix of that and see how it went. The problem was they didn't do the lower thirds in the broadcast, and we didn't show the pop down stats at all at first, and everyone freaked out. I think there's going to be some tweaking to that. I already know the people working on Codcast are coming up with ideas like, bottom right where it shows the player thing. And right now it has like the streak stuff, but we don't use streaks. So it's just like the extra perks that you can unlock, like putting individual stats there. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like, even though people will say it needs to be there, like that like little cheap Excel looking type box that has stats. Like I don't love that personally on broadcasts all times. I think it looks like shit. It takes up a lot of screen area. I think there are better ways to do it, and I'm hoping they're going to work very hard on that. But that's just my opinion.
No.
I think there's better ways to do it.
I agree with that. I think I think people are just very used to that, so they kind of wanted it there. But I think at the very least, you need to at least show the scoreboard at the end of the game. I think people
100%.
love seeing like what people. That's just what it is.
Well,
like who did good, who did bad.
And we need stats, dude. This is a whole other thing. But we need like a ESPN or HLTV that has stats all the time. So if you want to have a screen up and look at the stats at all times, you can. Cool. Or after a game, check stats. Like the fact that we don't have public stats is absolutely goddamn insane. It's just like we should have public stats. It's just like everything else. It's not as simple as you think it might be.
Of course.
But I'm hoping that's something they'll get resolved because that helps a lot too.
Well, if anything, the community gave very, very critical feedback, we'll call it. And the people that need to know about that stuff, they definitely know. Yeah. So I think as we go from event to event, tournament to tournament, there's going to be a priority to things, and things are going to move quickly. That's my opinion of it, and that's just not like a safe PR answer. I legitimately think they want to get it right so goddamn fast so the community never freaks out like that again, because it scares people when that happens. So.
Oh, and the color thing, just so you know, I talked to the people working on it. Apparently they had an update to how it's difficult to see the arrows and difficult to read the names.
Yeah, I couldn't see the Empire.
Apparently they had an update for that. Like it's already ready. It just wasn't, I guess, pushed through before this event. So I would assume that there's going to be some fixes with regards to the colors coming, because that was the hardest thing for Codcaster. I'd be like, we're in a 2v3.
Wait, I couldn't see the Empire arrows at all when I was watching the Dallas Empire and they had the navy blue ones. I was literally like, how many people are alive on the map?
Or some colors when they dark out up top,
dark green,
that needs to be clear. Like with the portraits like darking out. Like there's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up. But
that'll get better for sure.
They're aware. Yeah.
Very cool. And then I guess we'll go back to what I was going to lead into before, the actual gameplay. Hardpoint, S&D, Dom. I guess we can go through each mode, some of the maps that we saw a lot of times, stuff like that. I guess, Crowder, you can touch on the veto process a little bit, obviously not too much. I guess, how do you guys think Hardpoint played to start?
I think that spawns still need changed. It's still too quick. Like I just think it's wild that like even on a map like Cave, which we saw 10 times, 10, 12 times, people are averaging 60 engagements. Like, I mean, obviously the players probably love it, right? But they don't love the fact that they have to because of the spawn system, but they love fighting is that much. It just, you have to be punished. Like old Hardpoint, your position doesn't directly influence spawns the way it used to, sort of the squad spawning. So you get into this position where if like my microphone is the hill, you're here, I'm here, and we're just going at each other, right? Just all the time, where like if I'm here, you should be spawning over here and then having to run, right? Like that's the way old Hardpoint should, and good Hardpoint should work. And it is surprising to me. I know there was a lot of studio changes and whatnot, but like I was a part of the crew that helped fix Infinite Warfare's Hardpoint to where it was. Like, do you remember on like Retaliation, Scorch? Like, if you messed up, you were all the way over there. Yeah. Which is like kind of based off the standard of Black Ops 2. So Hardpoint for me, it's like it's easier than Dom. It makes sense. The spawns still make sense, but they need to be more punishing. Just plain and simple. There needs to be a good spawn and a bad spawn, not a equal spawn.
Definitely a good point. Just to touch on that IW point of like what we were able to do, it was a lot of work, but like I feel like the impact we made on Infinite Warfare compared to what it was at the start at Vegas to where it got to at the end of the game, like it gives me hope because that type of stuff is possible. However, I just don't know how long it's going to take. Changes definitely need to happen for the respawns. I think the community's on board with that. The pros are on board with that for the most part. Like, I hope there can be significant changes to that type of stuff. But yeah, all the points you gave about the game mode, Joe, is a really good point. Go ahead, Crowder.
I mean, I think the thing is like, obviously, I agree with what Joe said, and Black Ops 2 and even Black Ops 4 had a very good spawn system. I thought like you go here, they spawn here. You know what I'm saying? Like it was pretty simple. Like obviously you had your like weird spawns here and there, but for the most part it was good. I just think even if you don't want to do like that spawn system, maybe they have something else in their mind. Like we played Dallas, and I'm pretty sure Illy spawned in the hill at the very end, like after we got through, and like it made it all crazy.
Yeah,
like we ended up winning, and like there definitely is a way to play and be better than the next team. You know what I'm saying? Like there is.
You're talking about Cave when he spawned like back outpost, like right behind it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like,
I was like,
like some of those spawns, like at the very least, in my opinion, I think those spawns need to go. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that needs to be changed. Like even if you're not going to revamp the whole entire thing, like some of the obviously pros, like we kind of touched on this last episode, that kind of want. I see both sides of that argument. I think those at the very least need to go. Stop those from happening, because that like genuinely affects the game. And I saw a few of those happen to some people like in other aspects. But yeah, no, like that would be my biggest thing. At least the very least do those, just because that really does mess up like teams obviously chance of winning.
Well, it makes it hard. It makes it harder to watch.
And yeah, like, it's like
when you're constantly fighting around a hill, like Clint and myself don't have a breath to just be like, all right, so now what's going to happen is they're going to go here. This is where they're going to spawn. It's just like they're fighting, smoke. They're fighting, they're still spawning close. They're still spawning close. They're fighting. Like especially Cave, because we saw it 12 times. Like especially on that map. It's just like, oh, they're trying to get they're just trying to contest. Like we talked about it all. It was like punch for punch, and if you just like dodged a punch, like you won that map, because that's basically what it is. If you get hill number 2,
it felt like it came down to like one good hold a lot of times, like one good like dominant hold at Cave, like that was the difference so many times, which just weird.
That's why
it makes it harder.
It could there's definitely a way to play and be a little bit of ahead, but I do I definitely agree with what you said. Yeah, and it makes it harder to watch. It makes it crazy, especially with the smokes and everything. It's very fast paced, and from a spectator point of view, it's definitely tough. So
we should probably speed up on this part if we want to talk about teams much.
Yep, definitely.
Sounds good.
I was gonna say Search was like I didn't really have a problem with Search.
Search is always Search,
sometimes. Search was fine. I think
I thought it was a blast to watch Search from my
it was good. Yeah, it was good. To get through this quickly, just to all agree, Dom stinks. Like we're all there.
The only thing I want to ask that I wanted to bring up, Chris, I don't know how much your team was a part of it. Like obviously Dom needs very much like a rework spawn system, whatever. I haven't tested it. I don't know. Like, is CTF really because I don't know if the people watching know this. Like, there was a vote on CTF or Dom for game 3, because people always ask us, like, why are we playing Dom type thing? So, was CTF that bad? Like, was it? I guess.
I personally think that it was good on Gunrunner, and that's it. And I just don't think you can have one.
Yeah, usually CTF is very much maps. It's map dependent.
But I also think CTF's not a good game mode either. I'm not saying Dom is as well.
Right.
But if you're asking me personally, I would love to see 3 hardpoints and 2 searches, because I think the better team wins hardpoint most of the time. And searches is still like, you can have your game mode where like, think about every dynasties or like good teams, like weaker mode it was usually search and destroy. So you can usually sneak out of like a game 5 S&D to beat them. I think if it's 3 hardpoints and 2 S&Ds, in order to beat those good teams, you can sneak some S&Ds in there, but you're going to have to win something that takes slaying. So I personally would love to see that, but that's me loving hardpoint and loving the talented teams putting their teamwork together to win. Because like teams that aren't as slay heavy can easily win hardpoints. It's possible if you do it with teamwork, and you can win your S&D, so you can still win series. But I just think it'd be really cool to see 3 hardpoints and 2 S&Ds. If
Just
obviously Hardpoint gets tweaked as well, but that's just
my quick take on it too. When you're going through a day, you get to match 3 or 4, and I see Hackney Dom come up on my screen again, I roll my eyes. That's not a
the
feeling I
neutral
should
flags
have.
Also made it really weird too.
Yeah,
and that made it really tough.
That definitely didn't help the whole spawning process for sure, with everyone flipping out,
that
the
made
neutrals
it a
and
lot.
everything.
Dom, like people were talking about the patches in some of the interviews because they get this quick. Like, oh, the patch changed the game. No, it didn't. It changed Dom. It did not change your hard point. It did not change your shirts. There's no excuse. That's it. The only thing it changed was domination. It changed us. We were actually pretty good at Dom. We got smoked on Hackney. We didn't play it well. It happened.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's not an excuse. We got outplayed. It's like
maybe look at better. Maybe
so
look at
just-
better. Just,
My biggest worry is
that
like
definitely changed Dom.
my
So it was a
biggest
little-
worry
it was
is
a little different.
we look back at maps that we like kind of like rolled our eyes at over the years, and I don't want, even if things get fixed, I don't know if Dom's gonna get to a point where I'm excited to watch a Gunrunner or a Hackney. I don't think we're gonna. 90% of teams are gonna ban Petro over and over and over again, right? So it's just like, what?
Yeah, I mean, if we have to have a third game mode and it has to be Dom, I just want to get it to the point where if Clint asks me what's going on here, I don't go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. I can't tell
I gotta
you.
say, it was very hilarious trying to like you guys are just starting laughing. It's like, oh no, not again.
I don't know. I can't explain it.
Oh
The
man.
neutralings changed that like a lot.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to start talking about teams
Yep.
a little bit?
Yeah.
Just
Let's do it.
We love to talk, so we're gonna do a 4-hour show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need to go like team by team, but are we just like biggest surprise and like I don't know stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
And
we
be
can get-
surprised, right? I think we all kind of agree. Paris. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you beat London, you beat Optic Gaming LA, which we know Optic's not the strongest team. I just think, you know, okay, so they start off their first match, they beat Optic Gaming LA in a game 5. We're thinking, all right, we know Optic's not strong right now. It's a surprise, absolutely. But London, they smoked New York, right?
New York, yeah.
Then they lose to Paris on Sunday. That was the surprise to me because I was like, this is going to be a really good match. And then they blow that S&D. They 3-0 London. I was like, all right, props to them. Like, you know, we talked about it. It's 12 teams, most competition ever, but you got to give my props to the Legion for sure.
Dude, they were super balanced too. Like I think I saw like their overall KDs and it was like all between like a 1 and a 1-2. Like everyone played well. I think Kismet, dude, that actually was like really it's sort of outside the gameplay, but like his interviews and stuff were really good. Like I guess I feel like last
really
year was
were.
like his breakout. Last year was his breakout year, but like I didn't get to know him that well. 'Cause I don't remember him doing that many interviews, but like he just was
He didn't. No.
really, really well spoken. Played out of his mind. Yeah, I think Paris doing well is just I tweeted about it yesterday, I think, but like we usually had 16 teams. We had 4 teams that weren't super competitive. We now have 12 teams. All 12 teams are going to be competitive. I think any week outside of maybe like Atlanta right now, any week like anyone can beat anyone. Even with
and
the,
I
you know,
said
like,
that
anyone can, like,
last show, and someone gave me crap for it, so screw you.
Yeah,
God,
no,
I told you.
the lineups are stacked, man. Like the
Yeah.
lineups are stacked.
Well,
Like
if
even the
you-
lineups that don't look as good, they're still good.
I mean, if you look at Paris, where people are overlooking them, I think they got overlooked because they just weren't really scrimming.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
said. That was they weren't
Like,
scripted.
I
It's
They
an
think
weren't-
that's what it
information
was.
thing for sure.
But that team, yeah, it has players that they've done well. They've just never gotten a lot of like praise for it.
Yeah.
Like Kismet is good. I know he's not your most popular player to like fans or even other players, but Kismet has consistently now, even last year, he's done well. He is a good player. Like obviously, you know what I'm saying? Like he might not be the most accomplished, but I think Kismet's good. Even like the E6 team last year, I thought they were going to do well. Champs, they did. Like those players are good. Zed is good. Like Zed does his thing. He did it all last year. Like he was a good player last year. So they have a lot of talent on that team. I love to see like all like the Mind Free guys. I don't know. I'm happy with their team.
Teep, I want to ask you if that was like a good surprise. I think we all kind of agree. Like Seattle might have been the negative surprise. I'd like to
that
hear
was
your
mine.
thoughts on like
He-
Seattle. Yeah.
I was kind of gassing them up in our first show. Expected a lot of them. I had them on my own, like sort of personal power ranking. I had them a little bit higher up, and the fact that they come out and look like that, man, kind of a letdown. I think we all knew top to bottom, not going to be one of your top tier S&D rosters.
You gotta win 1 out of 4.
Like-
That's what I was gonna say. I mean,
And this is
I
more of
think-
like a
It's
higher
not an
level
excuse
thing
anymore.
right?
Yeah.
it's not.
That's what I'm saying. It was very obvious to me watching at the desk and having to break down a lot of these search and destroy maps. Some of you teams, what the hell are you doing? Spend more time like coming from the coaching perspective too, I know there was times where our team wasn't the greatest in S&D, and it comes down to how much time you're spending not only playing the damn mode, but actually going over it and having the entire team buy into improving. And I don't know if I say half or maybe more than half, but some of these teams would get on the S&D map and I'd look at their offenses for 3-4 times and I'm like, they don't have a good plan, or maybe one or two players have a plan and no one's on the same page. I just feel like that's unacceptable at the stage we're at.
It's lazy.
It's laziness. It's an egotistical thing for sure.
But like,
how many times you playing a hard point or a dom map? Like.
But like, I get, there is part of me that I agree with you 100%, but like I do get why you wouldn't necessarily want to play other pro teams.
Yeah.
I guess what's the solve here? Like, do you have to be like at United last year?
That's just not that's not true though. Like CS teams practice against pro CS teams all the time.
I don't think they do they scrim that much?
They do. That's how they practice. 100%. That's what it is.
I feel like most of their stuff is just in league. There's so much CS happening all the time. It's all in like league matches and stuff.
Well, obviously now at this point, but that's how they practice. Like, all you do is you try out different things. You figure out what works. You figure out your defaults. It doesn't matter if we play phase 10 times. Like, I don't know. Like, that to me.
So they got to figure it out.
It's all repetitions. It's all repetitions because the S&D, there's steps. There's step A, which is, where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Step B is planting the bomb. Step B is how do you want to set up defending the bomb? Same thing on the other side for defense. What's our setup? How do we adjust? Well, if the bomb goes down, how do we retake?
I always heard that
steps.
I always heard that people didn't like to play it because like people don't do stuff they'll do on land. People always troll. That sounds like a maturity issue.
It's not even about. It is a maturity thing, but it's about getting on the same page with how you want to do things. So if the bomb goes down A and it's a 3v3, how are we retaking that?
Yeah,
that is a thing. It has to be a thing. It just has to be. Just from our POV, we've been doing this a long time. We know when teams have a plan, a coordinated plan to do things, and I didn't see it very much. And I just feel like people need to be held accountable for it. And I want to see, in the weeks moving forward, just more emphasis. If there's pros or staff that end up watching this, it's just like, I can tell, like it needs to get better.
That to me is on the staff now at this point. Like it is more on the organization, the staff, the coaching staff to get their players to practice with what they need. Like if I am someone on the Seattle Surge, you bet my ass I am making sure you were playing X amount of S&D now before your first event, or I am finding you.
Good luck, Teddy Rex. Good luck, baby.
Yeah, plain and simple.
But yeah, back on top about specific teams. Surge didn't look super good in, from what I expected. I guess another team that didn't look super great either is New York. I don't know if that's someone you guys want to touch on New York a little bit, but honestly, for me, like Zuma looked phenomenal, and everyone else gave me like a meh. I was expecting more from a talented roster like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we weren't sure with what to expect from London. London looked pretty solid, and then they played FaZe. So
yeah. Well,
I thought New York was going to get 1-1. So
even their KDs are like hard to like talk about because they got just shit on by FaZe. So
it was like triple donuts in game 2 Surge.
Exactly.
A tough weekend for New York. I'm sure the one team people are going to want us to talk about is going to be Dallas, in which people are going to be like, they went 0-2. Like they were supposed to be the best team in the game. From my point of view, you played what we now think are the two best teams in the world.
Yep.
The Chicago match to me was closer than what it was. The game 1 was 250-210. They smoked them in Search. Hackney, they got smoked. Gunrunner was like 250-180. It's not like they were out of the games by any means. I still think Dallas is a top 4 team in the world. And if you want me to say they aren't because they lost to the two best teams, I don't know. That's just how I am. Like it was a rough weekend for them. I just think they're gonna bounce back.
Yeah, I mean that goes to like even like what you guys were just talking about Seattle. It's only 2 matches, right? You a bad weekend. Seattle obviously they went 0-4 in Search. If they win one of those, they probably win a series. So it's not like it's nothing to be too crazy about. I think people right now are giving more not really Seattle. Like I think Seattle's fine, but they're giving Dallas a little bit more of some criticism because there was a lot of interview, a lot of talk, a lot of like there was a target on their back.
Which I'm all for. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. Like there was a target on their back. They didn't perform. It happens. But like I by no means, if you were to ask me now, like I even got a few questions today, like, oh, what did you think of them? Like it's like they're great. They're still a great team. They fell short. They had two tough matches. Like I think they are. I think they're fine. I personally think they're fine.
One thing I want to ask you, Crowder, to keep you like remained as unbiased as possible. Don't even speak to your team when I ask this question. How significant was the patch in terms of like the movement and stuff?
Not at all.
Straight up, not super significant.
So I'll talk about slide canceling like in general because I play the game and there's two different side cancels and I know I think it made the circle X one like a little bit more delayed or something. I was saying, but like it didn't change the game. No. Like a lot of players that I talked to didn't think it did. The only thing that I will genuinely say it changed, and this is not why we lost our domination. You know what I'm saying? Like stay unbiased is just domination. The neutraling flags and not being able to stack and cap them completely changes the strategy of hey, let's stack on this point, get it, and then run. Now it became, hey, let's get at this point, neutral it, vanish, come back for the 2-piece. So like, and I will back up Dallas in that sense. They were nasty at domination. They changed them. So you know what I'm saying? That is that. But
for sure.
Other than outside of domination, no.
Cool. Good answer. Yeah, I was sort of like on the same page. Like your rotations and everything, your timings on domination are just completely thrown off. The spawns were obviously affected by the neutraling and everything. So I definitely was not expecting like a super polished looking domination from really any team.
From anyone.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have enough time to sort of figure that stuff out. So I'm sure once we get over towards London, a lot of reps need to be put on that to really figure it out.
This just for whatever reason I just thought of something. And we don't have to just a random thought came in my head with Joe and I. For Huntsman, you know, last episode where we really talked about like if Scump really cares, if Scump is like fully into it, if Scump this, Scump that, how good he can be. We had one little brief combo that surprised Joe and I. I think we were at the bar, like we were getting dinner at the hotel, and like we were talking to Scump about this weekend's format versus going forward. And I was like, yeah, or something like the format's gonna get better. We're gonna have tournaments. Like I know these are just league matches, blah 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 blah. And he said, what did he say, Joe? He's like, yeah, these are for 10 points. This is massive. And
yeah, he said, yeah, these are for the CDL points, 10 points each. This is massive. Like, now I was like, well, that is great to hear because T could probably speak to this. I just think like last year, the year before that, he would just be like, it's just CDL points.
It's a league match. It's a league match.
It's a league match. So I don't know.
I know it seems trivial, but Joe and I both looked at each other. We're like, huh. I feel like he's
bought in.
From when I talked to him on one-on-one, I agree with that sentiment. His outlook on it is much more positive than I would have thought it would have been, and I think that translates exactly to how he's playing and his team too. So I have high hopes for that team for sure. I don't really know how the attitudes are going to be, but
they look good.
He seems happy. Like I think he seems, I think what you two are talking about. I can't really say this like from like a lot of personal conversations, but from this like. The aura he's been giving off, you know what I'm saying? Like, like on Twitter and stuff. I think he's happy with his team, and I think when you're happy with your team, you're happy with the league matches you want to play.
And
I think that's a big thing.
I think his personal life is like better too. Like I think he's just happy right now, which is good to see.
Yeah, absolutely love to see it. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no!
You're gonna say anything? Gotcha. No. I guess we can touch on. Let's go. LA Gorillas. What I feel like they looked pretty freaking solid. Obviously,
they were only one of 3 teams that didn't lose a search, which
and
well, if you count game 2 is the one that
I was gonna bring that up because I feel like we got to touch on it. The whole them getting that map 2 taken away, that was fairly interesting. I didn't like it. I don't know if you guys want to give your inputs on it or give a PR answer. I think it's kind of whack. It didn't really like change the outcome at all, did it?
I get why. If this is the first event, you want to set a example in the sense of if you're breaking the rules, it's a rule you broke. I guess for me personally, I was more frustrated with like IW because that shouldn't have even been possible if the rules
Yeah.
weren't broken.
That's what I think.
So I get why it was ruled the way it was, but it also pissed me off because it's just a stupid goddamn thing that shouldn't have happened and led to a
Yeah.
bunch of tweets and a lot of complaining and people there till 3, 4 a.m. Like, I hate when there's big issues like that. It shouldn't be a fucking issue, and it was, and it pisses me off. It's just so dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I just you go.
Yeah,
first,
go ahead.
Joe.
Sorry. No, you
You,
go.
Joe. No,
Well, I'll go. Hopefully it doesn't matter. But I'll tell you what, if Gorillas miss wild card by 10 points.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, then.
Yikes.
Yeah, no,
The only thing I was gonna say is that to me, like, they lose game 3 and game 4. So to me, in my mind, that we should go game 5. Like, I don't know, that's not the series to me. Like,
Fair enough.
like in my mind, they're not 2-0. Like, they're 1-0 and maybe you 1-1 or 2-0. Like, I don't know, because Minnesota looked better in games 3 and 4. So were they tilted from getting forfeited? Maybe.
They were.
Maybe.
They were.
Yeah,
They
that's
were.
what I was
But
thinking.
regardless,
Yeah.
on a positive note, they look better than all of us expected them to.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they looked good, and I was actually talking to someone, I forget who now, but I was talking about their team specifically. They definitely didn't look the greatest in scrims from what the people are saying and yada yada yada. But I will say that team is good at search. Yeah,
Yep.
and that goes a very long way, like we talk about all the time. And I think they have the slaying power. You know what I'm saying, when those slayers are on their game. So I think they're gonna be solid for the most part. And yeah, touching on their series. I've been a player before. Having that ruled back in that setting is going to be annoying. You're going to
Yeah.
tilt. I don't think that's a whole excuse to lose a match and just tilt and lose the next 2 maps. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think as a professional player, the side of the argument, you should be able to make your classes right. Have I made the mistakes? Has other people made mistakes? Yeah. Didn't TJ call on a UAV in World War II or something? Like it happens.
Yeah.
But like, at the same time, I just don't think it should be possible. I think
For sure.
at the level that we're at, it just should not. It could, if it could be eliminated, it should be. You know, so I see at both sides of that argument, but I think
It's
that
just such a
roster,
stupid thing. I hate
Yeah.
that it even happened. It's just so stupid, man.
yeah, it's very dumb. And hopefully moving forward that doesn't happen again. It makes it not possible. But yeah, no, I think that roster is gonna go, even if they're not the favored team. Sometimes I think they're gonna go the distance with that roster with their search power if they continue their search power.
For sure. Mutineers, pleasant surprise for me. I thought this team was going to be a pretty good one, especially in Search and Destroy. When you look at the roster from top to bottom, I saw some good stuff from them. And then quick touch on OGLA. I had to roast Dash and Teej a little bit. I saw them and I'm like, this is one of these teams where we all understand that the game needs to get tweaked a little bit and improve. Don't fall into the trap where you can't take things seriously and you're not holding yourself accountable because of those excuses. Like Crowder said earlier, there is a clear skill gap. There are clear things that every single team can improve on in every single mode. Yes, I know Dom's wonky right now, but I feel like I've been seeing a lot of excuses on social media and stuff like that. I just don't want these people to just cop out. And I feel like that's just like an immature thing to do. And I feel like I expected a lot out of this roster for the first showing. Wasn't a good showing at all.
See, I didn't. I knew they stunk. I thought they were going to stink at this particular weekend, but I think this team will be nasty in a couple months. I really do. I guess I wasn't surprised. I mean, I tweeted at length about it because people kept, that clip about Optic that was out there, and I was like, they will 100% be the best team in this game. And everyone's like thought that I meant like right now. And I'm like, God, no. I mean, I'm not that dumb. Like, I know they're not very good right now. This is just a team still built for the future, built for the long haul.
I guess I sort of had like a thought process. Like I dealt with, or I experienced scrims with Dashy and Teej, and they're different players when they come out to LAN. They treat
TJ stunk on LAN.
Yeah,
he was not.
No, he wasn't good at all. I roasted him for it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just had a sort of my individual expectation of these guys when they get on a LAN match, serious situation, and I don't want to say flop, but it's kind of what it was.
TJ had a worse KD than Cap. That's a problem. You're not winning shit.
I mean, we knew how it was last year with you guys. It was like if he had a good S&D tournament, or if he had like a 1 in respawn because he's the guy entering for you, like that just turns into everything.
Such an impact.
He's an impact guy. He always has been, always will be. If he plays well, I mean, it sucks to like sort of carry that on your shoulders, but you have to. Like if he plays well, they're gonna do solid. Like to me, it's sort of like, with Chris's team last year, like the reason why Preston was such a big impact on our Thieves, it was like because he was that opener. If you had a round of one, that meant great things for that. That opens things up for your ARs. Bang. Same stuff where he wins the opening duel against like a Scump or, like a Simp or a BZ, like who knows what can happen. You give your team the advantage, start off that trade process. I know it's difficult to do all the time. I mean, if you watch CS at all, we always talk about the impact of like entry fraggers is basically what they're called. But if that player's having a great game, that team dominates. And that's the reason why. Yeah, exactly. So, to me though, I'll say it, like Atlanta, Chicago, everybody else, really. Just from I know like Paris went 2-0. I know Minnesota went 2-0. You can put an asterisk next to it, whatever you want to do.
See, I still think it's Atlanta, Chicago, everybody else. Like
that's what I said. I just think it's those two. I think it's those two and everybody else.
I just think Atlanta still might be a far ahead of Chicago. Yeah, I still.
We'll see.
Chicago look good, but I could be wrong. But what's interesting though is Atlanta won't be at this first tournament. Like they won't be at London, so we won't know. We won't know right away how they match up.
Interesting scenario.
This is like an eyeball test from me. Like I just casted both teams, and
that's fair.
Atlanta just they look nuts, man. They didn't drop a search
complete product. It's a complete product. They
didn't drop a single search round, not one. Mm-hmm. Not one single.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I'm not just saying this shit because Chris is here. Like, and I know he doesn't want to like gloat or gas his team, but
he's just gonna have his little smirk like that.
Yeah. I mean, I never. You know how I am. I mean,
Nope. Back to work.
I never think, and even when we won back to back last year, I had the same mindset before we won anything. I always keep my mind on like that. So, but touching on the optic thing, my thing with Teep, I do agree with you. I think the accountability and the maturity thing is a big thing. Like, I think anything you do in life, personally, the way I view it is like nothing's going to be perfect, but like you should always have your head on straight and do the most you can do about your current situation because you control your own destiny. You know what I'm saying? So like,
yeah,
you can wake up every day and complain and whine and blah blah blah, and you're gonna suck, or you can wake up every day and do your best to be the best that you at whatever's thrown at you, and you'll probably come out of it a little bit better than if you weren't. So I think mindset's a big thing. But sure. You experienced Dashy and TJ last year. I experienced Austin and Kenny. Or Slasher and Kenny, I'm sorry. And the way I feel like Slasher started off last year was kind of almost the same as this year. He wasn't very happy with some of the things in the game and yada, yada, yada. But I said it last episode. I'd say it now and I'd say it forever. I would never doubt Austin. And I think as the year gets on and it becomes more serious, because we are talking about only 2 league matches,
Yeah.
Austin not only holds himself accountable, he holds everybody on the roster accountable and more. How he's gonna. So like I think that's why, even going back, if you look at Austin's career in IW, when on that Envy roster, it was almost kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
they kind of stunk all year, and then when things started getting down to the nitty gritty, where would they end up? They almost could have won a ring. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that it's just what he does, and I think when Austin starts like saying, all right, listen, guys, this is no more BSing around like this. Yeah, I think that's when like they do it more.
Because start to click, right?
I don't like putting it on one person because, in my opinion, I always will say like I shouldn't have to tell you to want to care, because if you're on my team, I want you to care just as much. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yeah. That's kind of childish to be like, oh, if he's not telling me what to do, I'm not going to do it. But it's something like I don't look at Dashy and TJ to hold themselves accountable, just the younger players that they are and the personalities that they have. I think they're great players, nothing against them, but I think Austin and even kind of Cap, I think once they start, doing their thing and getting on people, if respect is given where it should be due, I think they're going to be a great team. I would never doubt a team with Slasher on the team.
Definitely. That's a good point.
Shout out Slasher.
We're a little bit past an hour right now. I guess we just give a little bit of a touch on the other teams I guess we haven't talked about and sort of wrap from there. Rocker, I think pretty good start from there. Home field advantage. They come through and give a really good performance for the home crowd. I guess it was very impressive. We talked about it in the last episode. GodRx needs to continue to keep out with that breakout performance, like you brought up, Clint. I think we need to see Assault back at that top AR level that we were used to seeing from him.
He was like their best player, bro.
Yeah, no, he was
He played really
exactly
well.
for sure. And then honestly, good performances from the other players as well. So that was a definitely thumbs up for me. And then the Ultra, pleasantly surprised, better than we thought. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to go 0-2. So the fact they beat Seattle on a game 5, but that to me is one of those teams as well. Like I touched on Looney. Like I felt like his teams would be prepared, which means they played S&D, which means they won the match. So
one of 3 teams that also didn't drop a search. So it's FaZe, Gorillas, and Ultra.
So yeah,
impressive.
Just feels like they worked harder than, and that's gonna be one of those teams where talked about like how are they gonna play S&D? You have 10 guys on the roster. It's pretty easy to do 5-on-5 S&D. So
I know real quick. This is I know we were running out of time, but we were at the airport and I was talking to some of the people that work on Codcaster and talking about some of the stat stuff. And Vance was in the background and he goes, "Shut up, baby! You don't know anything about COD." And I was just like, "I don't listen to people that are on the bench." And he just went. he died. It was great. It was great. I love Vance, and they definitely have like a 10-man roster, but that killed me. Sorry.
It was pretty cool to see them scrimming against each other in the back.
Yeah.
They were scrimming like they're the roster and stuff, and I think that helped them. I mean, I don't know what their practice regimen was, but they looked prepared, and I'm assuming having an in-house team
gotta be helpful.
Is probably helpful, right?
Well, kind of back to what I was saying, we were talking about practicing search. Like they maybe have an advantage over everybody, and that they can really run against what is damn close to being able to be another full starting roster.
Definitely.
I just don't look at any roster this year and say like you know what I'm saying? Like there's just so much talent. It comes back to what you guys said, like the 12. I think every roster, even bad showing, good showing this weekend, has so much potential with what they work with.
Yeah, and then I'll be the one to say this point too. This first showing, there wasn't that looming danger of getting knocked out. Moving over to the tournament format, teams and individuals are going to perform differently when you know you're about to go home, right? That's always like been an aspect about it. So like this first showing, I don't want to call them show matches, but it was for the points. It's going to be a different, it's going to be a different dynamic moving over towards London, and we'll see who shows up in elimination matches, who shows up, who plays differently in S&D when your tournament life is on the line. And I'm very excited to move forward and talk about that, which we'll probably cover in the next episode.
Yeah, next episode will probably be all like London, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
sure.
All about London. And especially also the last thing, when the CDL points start getting down to the nitty-gritty too, is the points obviously help with the chance qualifications and stuff too, I would assume.
That's all.
That's all it is.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. I didn't want to be wrong.
That's a good point. Like moving forward, like
when
these
the season starts getting halfway through, I've been on that line where it's like, yo, you can't lose another match. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start getting down there too, that changes the mindset too. Like I as much as I loved how we showed out, obviously we played well, and like other teams, these were show matches. There's a lot. I thought what I told my team is like, this is going to be a great way, either way, win or loss, to see what we need to work on. Like we saw what we needed to work on, and we're going to go do it. And the same thing for every team. So
cool. First good look. CDL launch weekend was an amazing time. BTB's taking over. I was on the desk. The boys were casting.
Ooh, our photos look good.
The photo shoot went good. BTB merch this weekend. Make sure you guys look out for social media for more information on that if you want to pick up some BTB merch. And Crowder, congrats on your team doing really well, buddy. Next episode, we will be talking more about CDL London. I'm excited to get into that as we move over to the tournament format. And make sure you guys subscribe and check out all of our streams. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.